The real idea here, and it's nothing novel, and we don't profess to really be presenting anything here that really hasn't been tried other places and worked successfully in other places. So this isn't an experiment, it is not an experiment. It has been done successfully, and we see tremendous opportunity in this site. Where else do you have a hospital of such caliber adjacent to a mall in close proximity to a transit with some residential uses, and then your civic center with office and other supporting uses with a significant population adjoining it. So the elements, we believe, are mostly there, and we need to capitalize on those elements as we go forward with the strategy. So, I mean, the first diagram that we drew is really this idea that the mall and the hospital are the attractors. This is why somebody comes here. They're either going to the mall, for the most part, or they're going to the hospital, and that drives a lot of this being a major regional destination that serves well beyond Laguna Hills and serves a variety of communities. At the nexus, at the space between, is where we see it's lacking, in that there is really a limited connection between the two. We think that that's an opportunity to strengthen the connection between these two great resources via some moves that we'll show you in a couple of slides. And then you have a landowner that we've talked to at the Oak Brook detail who's very willing and eager to get something going. And that's a tremendous opportunity. And then you've got the new city hall. So I mean, this plan really sets up, and it's very logical, you know, on these two axes here. And this is largely what you have already identified in your specific plan. And now it's capitalizing on that and filling in some of the gaps. So we drew this plan as one version, and you know, obviously this whole process needs to be, and we'll go into details as far as the next steps, this needs to be a collaborative process to craft the vision. As a first step, really something that the group can throw darts at, and as a jumping off point for this collaborative process, we came up with this plan here. Again, strengthening the connection between the mall and the hospital with this living room space. It doesn't need to be large, it doesn't need to be overly programmed, it doesn't even need to be that expensive, but it needs to be a space for people that's framed by a diversity of land use, perhaps a hotel. Take, again, these surface parking lots, use those and see those as an opportunity for development by going up with your parking and then filling this in and creating this Main Street spine through the site. And then connecting up to the Oak Brook Village Shopping Center. Again, land holding where they're very eager to get something going. And so one of the struggles is this is a large piece of land, and the distance between here and the City Hall is over 3,000 feet. And so putting all of your eggs on a main street and populating that main street with enough use is going to take a period of time. So really the question comes down to, where do you start? You know, where should the Catalyst project begin to create and shape the built environment? So there's really, you know, in our view, there's two main options, and again, this is where a collaborative process amongst the various stakeholders can help further define this. One is that you start with what we've heard is a very willing landowner, and this becomes a starting point. Another is that you put your Catalyst project at the crossroads of all of these different land users, where you've got at the intersection of the mall, really the hospital uses, the senior village, and the Oak Brook village. You know, you fill in and you start a phase one Catalyst project either in this location here or this location here. Again, going into structured parking, some residential units to help frame the space and create and paint a picture of what's to come. The critical component will obviously be the first piece that goes in, and that needs to set the tone and the framework for what's to come, so that others can really start seeing the vision in the initial phase. Future phases, perhaps, as we preserve these critical anchors to the success of retail, and we know how critical they are to activating the space, that there's opportunity and there's precedent for, again, bringing a street grid through the mall. And the idea is really to establish a series of streets and blocks that allow flexibility to different land uses. And that while residential, we believe, is a strong land use that needs to be considered in future plans, really this street and block network will give you the flexibility to adapt the plan as market changes, as various conditions change. So you establish a framework, and then again, some of the uses aren't necessarily as critical, but that framework is really held to, and that all the stakeholders agree on that framework and will work to getting that done. And then the idea is that once you get your catalyst project off the ground, whether it be here, whether it be here, or something here, as opposed to leaning on the main street, then you fill in the gaps. One of the things from empirical data in terms of successful places for pedestrians is that there needs to not be a significant break in the built environment along the main pedestrian spines. If you get a break of some distance, and experts will vary on what that distance is, a lot of people will just turn around and go back. So it's one thing to create a great sidewalk with some nice street trees and create a nice pedestrian environment, but what you need is great pedestrian destinations. And so filling in with the appropriate land uses, again, as the market dictates. And then strategically locate open space features at critical nodes. Again, create these living room spaces for the public to, again, start using the outdoor environment that we're so blessed with here in Southern California. A typical street section, again, through Main Street. This is very similar to what you already had in your specific plan. But again, if you did residential, filling in with retail or some activated use, it doesn't always have to be retail. Again, I don't think this plan can rely too heavily on retail, that you need to be sensitive. Obviously, you need to be sensitive to the mall and not compete, and then they're not going to want to compete with themselves in terms of putting any additional retail that will take away from their tenants. But activate this. Cafes, bring back the sidewalk, tables and chairs, and then residential above. And this is a character sketch, just to kind of frame in terms of, very helpful in terms of us visualizing what this could be. And that, it doesn't have to be scary, and that new development can actually be extremely additive to creating and shaping place. And then, in fact, without some additional investment from the private side, it would be very difficult to create great spaces and great places. And this could be this hub, this outdoor living room space framed by uses at the right time, perhaps breaking into the mall where the existing food court is, activating those uses, maintaining some significant amount of restaurants and cafes. And then just a variety of sketches where we were exploring sort of the form and character and how the built environment really is what is going to frame these outdoor rooms. And that to create that space, you need walls to a room, and the built environment is are those walls. And again, the success of this place obviously can be measured in people, and that if people are there walking, using it, and that's how you can measure one measure of success. So in terms of next steps, that our report, and our research takes us to a point. And now it's the launching off point for the city and the stakeholders to really make this vision their own, to change our vision and make it their own, and establish something that the parties can agree upon.
And I think it's finding that it's reaching out to all the different stakeholders and breaking it from just the city to the stakeholder to trying to get everyone at the table to reach a consistent vision that everyone can work towards implementing. And I think with that in mind, it gives at least a goal to know as you move forward over the years, you know what you're trying to implement, because what's missing here is a great vision was set in 1992 when you did your, 2002, sorry, when you did your specific plan, and now it's to the point where how do we get it implemented? And we need multiple players at the table, and if we need to break down some of the silos, that's what needs to get done to get the right investments and the sharing of risk to get these things implemented. How do you see that?
And it's you know, it's an extremely messy process, and a lot of cities really don't want to take that on because you have such diverse interest groups and people coming from different perspectives. But really, it is the only way forward in terms of creating a great place. You can create a place, and you can let the market continue to just, you know, to dictate what goes in, when it goes in, how it goes in, and do a piecemeal approach. And that's fine if that's the goal. If the goal is to create a great place, then you have to start with this collaborative sit-down workshop where all of these stakeholders come to the table and really kick off this community identity. Again, we've talked a little bit about funding mechanisms, you know, and that we realize that funding is extremely difficult, but that we need to explore that in further detail. And then this idea of identifying the catalyst project, that there should be the goal of getting a project that will set the tone, that when something goes in, that initial phase really is what you're looking for, and it sort of sets the bar and the standard.
And the city must be the champion of this vision, and I think it's important to think about this vision for what the urban village could become, not only in the short term, but the long term. The mall now is a fairly viable thing. It's a very valuable piece to the city. 20 years from now, is it going to be just as viable? So I think it's important to really think about when investments are made in the city, how it can be built upon and not spend money and it be a waste of investment because the bigger picture wasn't taken into account.
Right. And again, just to emphasize that we really do believe that the city does and can be, you know, the real champion of the vision, and that they can establish the vision and see it through to its implementation, and that they and need to be the leaders in terms of creating this, not just as a place or another piece of the patterning that we see throughout Orange County, but really creating something different, something that will create distinction in the city, something that doesn't try to replicate what was done in Mission Viejo at their mall, and something that doesn't try to replicate what was done in Spectrum. You know, that we're obviously, you know, geographically in the middle of those two places, but to create something new and fresh and viable.